Dina Does. I'm Dina, and I know a little bit about a lot, but I want to know more. So join me on this path to self-discovery. This week on Dina Does, we're addressing natural beauty, and my guest is a lovely, lovely natural beauty herself, Cayli from Knockout Beauty. Welcome.
Thank you. So nice to see you.
So good to see you. I haven't seen you in years. We met in the Hamptons at what was supposed to be just a pop-up shop, from what I recall.
Exactly.
And you have a shop that just represents every brand that is ethical and natural and works. And I, of course, was gravitated towards it. And I met you. And from there, I just fell in love with everything that you stand for. So why don't you just tell us a little bit about how you got started?
So we started in 2016 in the Hamptons as a pop-up, as you said. It was really a way to create community around beauty, but really because beauty is the conversation that starts women talking often. And through beauty, we end up exploring health, we end up exploring our mental state, confidence, and ultimately, oftentimes business, which I think is so great because I think a lot of times women are left out of a lot of business conversations.
For sure. And it's funny because we've been covering some heavy topics. We just launched not too long ago, but we've been covering some really deep healing. Dina Does really started off as a way to share my healing journey and spiritual journey with others. And every week we're like talking about these deep, deep transformative conversations. But you know what? I said, first of all, I need a break. I need a little mental break because it's a lot of, as we have these discussions, I'm, opening and learning. But also I'm like, let's just break it up with some beauty and some light things. But like you said, it really goes hand in hand with everything else, because what I'm realizing is the mind, body, soul connection. Your body has so much to do with it, what you're putting on your skin, what you're putting in your body. And that's really what we're talking about here today. So I'm hoping to get those who are like, I'm not interested in spirituality. I'm hoping to get them to listen to this week so they can understand how much it really goes hand in hand and how important not only what you put on your body, but how you feel and how you look plays into your spiritual journey.
Oh, for sure. I mean, your skin is your largest organ, right? It's the gateway to your immunity. So your immune system is protected by your skin. And with that, it's also, I think, very much the armor that we wear, right? And so it's when we think about the journey that, you're taking your listener on often, is really about finding the self and centering the self and finding your highest purpose. And I think when we can think about, instead of it being your armor, but it's actually a way to actually shine, right? So that instead of it protecting you, it's actually a way to reflect to others. It's a way to share with others. And the stronger we feel, I think the better we are as community with each other, right? So we are better sisters and wives and mothers and friends when we feel good about ourselves. Much like putting the mask on, yourself, or putting the gas in your tank, or whatever it is, to make sure that you're filled up so that you can bring your best self.
And what's funny is a lot of the times when people tell me, you're glowing, it's when I'm feeling spiritually strong. So that glow is literally coming out within. So we can pound on all the products we want, but if you're not working on your insides, you're not going to have that glow that when you walk in a room, people are like, wow, what does she have? So again, go totally hand in hand. And I'm so glad you're here for this conversation, because we could talk about both. We could talk about the products we're going to talk about today. I'm going to share some of my favorites that I use, and you'll share some of the favorites that you sell. So you're currently, I know you live in California now, which
I do.
That happened somewhat recently, yes?
2018, yes. So I opened the first store in 2016, set my whole life up to be, close to my stores. I had my second store in New York City right around the corner from my son's school. I was feeling like, okay, I can do this. I can be a mom. I can have a business. And then my husband said to me, guess what? I'm moving to the other side of the country.
Surprise.
Surprise. So we moved in 2018 and we opened the store in Brentwood in 2019, just before the pandemic. So it
Wow.
was, we opened Brentwood December 2019.
Wow.
And thankfully we did, because I operated much of the store and the shipping actually all from my garage for many, many months. So
We all did.
actually it was a blessing that it happened. I know you were making it happen.
Well, we had no choice. And that's
Yeah.
the beauty of what came out of this all, is that it showed us that we can be more accepting of people working from their home and their own surroundings and where they're comfortable with, the errands that we need to run and grab our kids, or I like to be around my animals. This is exactly why we discussed for a minute before we went on, is I insisted on doing this podcast from my kitchen counter so I can be in my robe with my animals, feel the most authentically me, so I can have these amazing conversations with thought leaders like yourself and everyone that we bring on to Dina Does. So I think this pandemic really made that acceptable, where I used to kind of hide that I was at the house, like, oh, we'll be back in the office tomorrow. No, screw that. I'm in my house. That's where we're coming
I'm
from.
here. I get, and I think it's also created a better flow. So instead of it being work-life balance, which sort of compartmentalizes the two, you actually just have flow throughout your day, which is a
Yeah,
much more, I think, a nicer journey for your day,
of course it is.
as opposed to
Easier.
putting this hat on and then that hat on, or I'm this person and then I'm that person. You get to be yourself all day, which is kind of a nice feeling. Sometimes you want to
Amazing.
escape yourself, I guess, but
We all do. So one more question, then we're going to get into the nitty gritty of beauty. Tell me a little bit about, I know your background a little bit, but a lot of the listeners and viewers don't know. So tell me about your background and how you got into beauty in the first place.
sure. So I was born and raised in the fashion industry. Um, my mom was actually an editor at Vogue when she got pregnant with me. And this was back in the day when you would go to the doctor and you used to be behind a curtain, for modesty. And he came in and said, so you look really healthy and I have some great, I don't think you're sick though. And she's like, well, that's good news. And he said, yeah, but you are having a baby. And she was like, oh, well, that might be a problem. He said, and she said, why? I said, I've just been offered fashion director of American Vogue. And he came behind the screen and he said, that is a problem.
Oh gosh.
So it ended up that actually she didn't become the fashion director of Vogue, but actually 20 years later, my dad did become the fashion director of Vogue. So I have the unique experience of having both my parents be Vogue editors, and grew up really ensconced in fashion, and then really on set because my dad was a stylist. And when you're on set as a young person, you're usually with hair and makeup. So my initial beauty journey kind of began with the behind the scenes experience of being with some of the most incredible hair and makeup artists in the world, who still maintain, that status. And it was a beautiful learning, and it was incredibly empowering to see how people could transform. And that, I think, was the beginning of my interest. And then I started to notice in my teens that a lot of the models, when they began, because I would know them, when they first started to look like their photos, even
Hmm.
without makeup on. And which I thought was so fascinating. And what you started to see was that it was their confidence, it was their poise, it was giving them the fine tuning, or the sort of focus that made them look like themselves suddenly. And so
Exactly.
suddenly, you would see, and then it sort of became this idea of like, oh, it's really much deeper than that. And so my parents were Buddhist. They met at a Buddhist meeting in the 70s. And so this idea of kind of the connection of body and mind and skin has always been something that I've understood, because it was how my mom treated her body. She unfortunately passed away from cancer when I was 13. So
Yes.
that's where sort of my clean beauty, which is not really, clean beauty doesn't really mean anything. There's no governing body for clean beauty. But the idea of something that is not toxic or not harmful to our bodies, um, and kind of doing something though. She still had a ritual. She still washed her face every day and moisturized and took care of her body, but she also dry brushed. She was also doing, which now I know is Abhyanga, but at the time I didn't know what that was, which is that sort of the movement of the lymph and kind of, really getting the body activated. And so she was very much an inspiration to me and sort of the health piece of what I do. And my dad and his experience of being a stylist was very much my inspiration for the sort of elegant, glamorous side of what I do. And then when I was a late teen, I ended up with pretty bad acne and ended up on Accutane. And
Same.
you did. That's interesting. Same around the same time period.
22, right after I had my daughter. So 23, 24.
So a hormonal surge probably was part of that.
Mm-hmm.
And what I realized from that moment was the Accutane changed my mental state, which was wild. So now there's been a lot of research behind that, but at the time there was something that was not right. I was having very strange thoughts and ideation, and I thought, like, this doesn't feel like me. And it made me understand that for everything that we try and fix or change, we're in a relationship with the universe, with our bodies, with God, with whomever you want to say. And we're also in relationship to nature. And every time we alter something or we change something, we are inevitably creating a response. And so while my skin was looking great, my mental state was not in a great place. And I started to think about, okay, how is this going to affect women and girls? And I thought there's got to be another answer to this. At the same time that that was happening, proactive became a really big thing. And I loved that it was a solution for something, right? Like, and everybody loved it. It was like a step solution where you could solve something and you could be, you had a, agency over it. And I love the idea of having agency over your skin. And I think that what I realized was it's not as pre-prescribed as that. Everyone has something different. It is your largest organ. So you need to think about, what is it that you're really using on your skin? How is it affecting your health? How is it affecting your well-being? And that, as I started to enter my 20s and 30s, became my quest, my conversation that I was having, because it's shifted right from acne into also beginning of aging, but also my time of wanting to create a good home for a baby to be made and wanting to be as healthful as possible. And so all of those things have come together to inform where I am today. But I think at around just before 40, I started to get very interested in the science of beauty. I always loved the science of everything, really. I mean, I love the idea that, obviously I said if there's an action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? But more understanding the chemistry of beauty now and understanding what the skin needs and why the skin would thrive, honestly, on a dose of Accutane. What was happening? And it was a deficiency. So looking at the idea of, okay, rather than blasting your body with something, how could you bring it back to a place of optimization, right? And much of what people talk about now, but that wasn't being talked about then, right? This idea
Well,
of like
it's the main
biohacking.
thing of, instead of putting the Band-Aid on top, is getting to the root of the issue. And that's how I
Yes.
feel about Western medicine overall, versus Eastern. Obviously sometimes it's necessary when your arm is chopped off and they need to glue it back on. But when you have the opportunity to go a little bit deeper than just fixing the problem at hand and going to where that originates from, is where the true healing happens. Because unfortunately, like we said, yes, the Accutane will make your skin look great, but it's hurting something else. And that goes for the same thing with thyroid meds. Yeah, it's going to regulate this in an artificial way, but at the same time, it's doing something to this. And we can go on and on and on about big pharma. Well, at least I could.
Me too.
And it's funny because every time, when I do go see a doctor, I remember recently I had like this weird thing going on reproductively. And I had asked my OBGYN and I'm like, do you think it's coming from my kidneys? And she's like, well, I don't know. I'm not a urologist. And I was like, well, aren't you supposed to know about
About the whole system, how it's all playing together?
And she was ready to give me something to take care of that issue when it wasn't, and it was just like, what I love about the holistic approach is it looks at the entire thing, from your skin, from your organs, internally and externally, this big organ of our skin. And that's what you're talking about right now, is addressing the root of the issue rather than putting a Band-Aid on something, which beauty has a huge part in. Beauty products have a huge part in.
For sure. I mean, I remember even so many of the skin concerns that we are sort of aware of as like the primary skin concerns that are issues of being acne or rosacea or hyperpigmentation or melasma. It's coming from inflammation, right? And inflammation is beginning in the gut. And so that conversation of the body in general, sort of what's happening inside coming out, is already, I think, something that needs to be addressed, because what you're putting on your body, if it's creating inflammation elsewhere, it is going to come back out on the skin too, right? So it's this funny cycle that you can get into. But also, when I went to the doctor when I first moved here, he said, I'm going to take your bloods and want to prepare you, because I often when I work with women in the beauty world, we come back with some really crazy results. And I said, why? And he said, just the toxicity of the products that people are using. And I said to him, I'm not using those products, so I'm not concerned. Do it up. Take my blood, do my thing. He said, we'll do a little urine sample too. We'll do the thing. I said, great, no problem. So I hadn't prepared for the test at all. And I went back and he said, do you wash your hair? Do you clean your hands? I said, yes. He said, I've never seen anybody with such clean labs. And so that was I didn't prep for it. I hadn't done anything to cleanse my body of it. That's just what I use every day. And he showed me a lab of a woman who was also in the beauty industry. We were the exact same age. And she was using products that the list of the products is on the right-hand side that she had just written down for him. And he asked me to put my products on the side. And I was using way more product than she was. So it wasn't the volume of product either. It was just the actual chemistry of the product and what was not included in the products I was using.
Exactly. It's crazy. It's really, especially, obviously society makes it so easy and affordable to put the junk on our body. And just like with food, it's a shame that the organic and the natural products are more expensive. But I see a little shift in that happening. And that's what I loved when I had my skincare, is we were made in a green factory. So it was, the factory itself started off like made me feel good. It was, all energy, and we were able to keep the costs down in certain ways where I can, provide it to the consumer as well. And what people don't know is, and it was all natural ingredients, all non-toxic.
We're talking about Glow by Dina, correct?
Yes. And it was wildly
Great
successful.
products.
And it still
Great
is,
products.
I still get messages these days. What happened was we lost the opportunity to produce it in this factory because of costs. We couldn't keep the costs to what it was. And my thing was, if I was producing it, I wanted to give something super affordable, which I think our serum was the most expensive product, was $19.99.
Amazing.
And we came to a point where it was almost costing me more to produce it at that point.
Of course. Yeah.
So the formula was sold and we moved on from it, but I'm still not done with it. I'm like, I'm going to make that happen one day. When I have time to revisit it, because it was an amazing product that worked, and I am not done trying to get it back to being cost effective. So we'll see what happens.
I love
with
that. That makes me so happy. It was such a great suite of products, but that serum was really incredible.
Yeah, it really was. But you have a wide range of products, from like the less expensive to the uber expensive, which that's what this world is. And like I said, it's kind of sad where you can go into a CVS and buy these products for a couple of dollars that are horrific for your skin and your body and your system. But again,
and a lot of times those ingredients aren't actually affecting the performance of it. It's actually it's just for the longevity or the filler. So it's to fill up the lip gloss or to fill up the shampoo, right? It's not because it has any effect on the efficacy of the product or the performance of the product, or it's working on the shelf life.
Exactly. That's for most of the time, that's what I find. So they can make more money. Whereas if it expires in CVS, they sell it to a dollar store and all of that kind of thing. So I think people are waking up to this. And I think, I know as far as even in my pop-up shops that I do, I always carry some natural beauty products just as an offering and a little seed to plant for those who, load up on the CVS products. But talk to me, let's talk about we'll go from body part to body part. So let's start with overall body lotion. Like, what is one of your favorite go-tos where it really helps you with hydration, but it's good for you to slather on all over?
So it's interesting. I have changed my thinking a little bit on body recently. And I used to love an oil only. And I do still love an oil, but what I think about when I think about an oil, like I love the Agent Nature oil. I love what it does to my body. My skin glistens, it's tight, it feels amazing. And so if I was only going to do an oil, I love that oil. I've really come to the place of treating my body much more like I treat my face and layering products on my body. So I'll do a lactic acid as a sort of serum, if you will. And then I do a cream, and then I do my oil as the sealing. So much like we seal the skin at the end. I've been doing a cream, and the creams that I really like I love this cream from a brand called Verso. And I also love the Spa Ritual cream. I think the Spa Ritual creams are they have enough emollients to them where you feel like you are hydrated and your skin feels like it's having a drink of water, but you don't feel sticky like you don't want to get dressed, because I feel like that's the worst feeling. And then when I'm feeling like really decadent and really like, okay, I'm putting it all on, I love to use the MBR body serum because there's nothing like it.
Okay.
It feels.
Maya's making notes for me because I have to try all of this. I've been kind of downplaying my entire routine with everything as I get older, even with makeup, like less is more. But now I just turned 50 and I'm seeing some skin changes, like where I never, ever had to. I mean, I remember meeting Bobbi Brown, the makeup artist. Oh no, was it Bobbi Brown or Laura Mercier? I met her at an event, and I shared a secret with her that I at the time I had to be 38. I never used moisturizer my entire life because I didn't need it. I'm an oily
on your face
bitch.
or your body?
Nothing. Like I'm oily,
right.
So why would I want to add more moisture onto something I'm trying to control? So she was like, a lot of women don't need it when you're naturally, emollient, like you don't need it.
Yeah,
To this day,
I was the same. I didn't really use creams in my 30s, really.
Mm-hmm. And
so I'm with you.
I would use Glow by Dina because it was so light and natural when I had to. But even now, I'm just starting to see the change in my skin where it's becoming a little drier. Just literally like overnight when I turned 50, I was like, my massage therapist even said, oh, your skin feels a little different.
Do you know why that is, other than just your hydration and your moisture? So moisture being oil, hydration being water. Do you know what the other reason is?
I mean, intuitively.
Yeah, intuitively, because I think it's one of those things. It's like, I don't think that a lot of people register that this is what it is.
Yeah.
So
I mean,
it's actually exfoliation.
Oh.
And cell turnover.
So I do dry brushing,
which is great. And that's helping a lot. But your body is, as we age, your body is turning over cells half as quickly as it was in your 20s. So when we think about that, and you think about the cell still kind of being there, but not a healthy, cell that's grabbing the moisture in the same way, and a cell that's not able to plump up in the same way with a hyaluronic acid or something where it's holding on to that water, what ends up happening is that we feel drier because of it. And so we have that mixed with obviously the oil changes in our body and the intuitive that I'm sure you're going to talk about. If we're dry also on our face, we're probably dry everywhere.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I was intuitively think it was all the traveling, like dehydration from being on planes, because I've been traveling more than I've ever traveled in my life, not only
I
like
love
out of the
that.
country, but also, now we have a Florida home we go back and forth to, and we're always back and forth to New Jersey, and I constantly feel like dehydrated. So I thought intuitively I just have to up my water intake, and then hormones, I
Right,
mean,
it's hormones. Exactly, it's
yeah.
hormones. I mean, I think, yes, you have to up your water intake. I mean, I drink water. I have a water sitting by me right this minute, and I drink
Same.
water the second I get out of bed. I don't even actually get out of bed. I have the bottle sitting next to me, and I down the full bottle before I even begin. And so I've looked at it too. It's like, I am definitely taking in enough water, and I'm definitely, so I'm replenishing, and I'll even sometimes do an IV when I travel, just to kind of replenish all the
Smart.
nutrients and all the stuff that I'm missing. Cause I like you, I'm on a plane a lot. Um, and, but I started to understand that there was something else going on. And it was the slowing of the cell turnover mixed with the hormones was really a combo that was quite intense, actually. And
Well, next week, we're actually interviewing Dr. Prudence Hall, from the Hall Center, who
yeah,
was my OBGYN for, when I lived in Malibu for years. And we're going to dive into the hormones of it all, because I mean, I would mostly, it's either mostly girls and gays listening, so I could talk about my period. I still get my period regularly. So I'm not like
amazing.
in menopause yet, but I'm obviously in perimenopause. So I want to know more about the effects of the hormones that it's having on my skin and my hair.
And your hair,
Um,
the hair is such a big piece of the puzzle. I mean, when so we always, people will come to us a lot about our hair and ask them about, their, because it's a beauty store is a beauty store is a beauty store, right? It's hair, skin, nails, it's,
mhm.
all of it. And the first doctor that you see when you have hair loss or hair differences is actually a dermatologist. The second doctor you see is an endocrinologist. And when we think about that, when the hormones are shifting and changing, something has to shift, right? It's not just like it's shifting and it's just going into the ether. All of our body is shifting, and our hair is one of the things that shifts the most. And the first time you really, really see it in women, anyway, is after we have a baby and we have all that hair fall that happens. Because when we're pregnant, our hair cycles up and the cycles meet each other. So the hair fall looks even more obvious, right? But as we age, we also create a situation where our cycling is not happening in the same way that we're used to.
Yeah. Oh gosh, we women take it all, don't we?
I mean, men have it
They
even
just
worse
get
than
more
we do with
handsome,
hormones.
and
That's true.
definitely.
Men get very handsome with
Yeah.
age. I said to my husband, he was sitting across from me the other day, I said, it's ironic to me that you've got readers, and it's actually quite sexy. And I think if, like, I put on a reader, it's grandma.
Yeah, we look like grannies. Mhm.
And, but I think what we have, which was so sweet, he said, yes, but you as women get to have that glow of wisdom that men don't have in the same
Mm,
way.
I
And I was
love
like,
that.
that's so nice. Thanks. I'll take that.
That
Um,
acknowledgement is amazing.
it's so
Amazing. God
nice.
bless.
I think what we, where I love that. I love watching the rise of women and girls. I think it's such a special thing. I really feel that's what we're witnessing right now. Um, and I think that so often we remove men from that conversation. And really, I think, I am the person I am because I was raised by my dad. My mom died when I was 13. And I'm the mother I am and the entrepreneur that I am because of my husband, because he allows me to be that. Even though there's no investors for Knockout Beauty, and even though my business is self-funded, um, he in many ways is my investor, because he allows me
Amazing.
to live my life the way that and allows me to feel supported. And so I think it's a misstep to not acknowledge men, especially when they acknowledge us.
Oh, absolutely. My husband and I are currently on an amazing journey of witnessing him embrace the divine within,
Love
and for
that.
such a macho, we keep using that word because that's what he is, this Jersey, guy, just embrace that quality within that all men have within, but they've been programmed to cover it up. To see him like really work with this and with me in it, it's making me fall in love with him on a level that I didn't even know I could love him anymore. But to see a guy like that, you know, this who's very much like my dad, who unfortunately died with that, you know, harsh exterior and would never, you know, go there. To witness my husband, you know, be on this journey is beautiful. And yes, we have to acknowledge the men and we have to encourage and inspire them. At the same time, we could use some of that masculine energy to build ourselves up and balance ourselves in business and in relationship as well. So, and universally, I think that's what's happening right now is really the yin and yang of it all and balancing it.
Coming together, and that sort of more fluid, like we were talking about even with our day, of not so compartmentalized, of just being a being, not being so one thing, and being just a loving, warm, light being.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh, I love it. I love it. I love this conversation. It always kind of goes back to the duality of things and the balancing of it all. That's what I'm finding this life here on earth is all about, is the dark and the light, and making it, you know, smooth and balanced and in the flow, like you said. So we talked about the body. Let's talk about the face before we talk about product. I remember being in your shop, and I still have the same exact one, the glove. You had like this rubber
that
glove.
mitt.
Yeah.
I love that
And
mitt.
now I use one for my face, and I pulled some tools from my toolbox in my
I
bathroom.
pulled some tools from my toolbox. I love it. So I see you have a roller there.
I have a
got a
spiritual
Gua Sha.
toolbox. This is my beauty toolbox. So I used to sell these, but they're impossible to ship, you know, as you probably
they break
know.
all the time.
Yeah. But let's talk about the Gua Sha first and foremost.
Amazing.
Do you sell these in your shop and online?
I do.
Or? Okay,
we
good.
do. We do. You know, Gua Sha it's ancient, right? And so when we think about the Gua Sha, it was also an empress's tool, right? So it was really this incredibly empowering thing, but it was also very special. And I think it's because it's quite powerful, right? That's it. That's why it was reserved for royalty. So it is one of the most interesting, I think, tools to start with, because you can see such a big change. Will you tell us about how you use your Gua Sha? Because I feel like everyone has like a good tip, good Gua Sha tip.
Well, for me, obviously, there's all kinds. You can get metal, I like to use the crystal aspect of it, and I have all different ones. This is the rose quartz. So starting with that element of infusing love and beauty, the rose quartz is obviously the quartz of heart opening and love and beauty. But then some other times, you know, we introduce some jade into the mix. So I start with that first of all. So whatever I'm feeling I need more of that day is the crystal that I'll pull from. For me, I use it after I started using it after I got my surgery, my nose. And I was just a swollen mess because I swell easily. And then the littlest, tiniest bit of dairy or sugar or gluten will make me swell even more, especially up in this area now.
Yeah, all the inflammatory foods.
Yes. And when I tell you my body is so sensitive now, I can just like pick a little piece off of, you know, an ice cream or one little scoop, and the next day you'll see it all over my face. So I
similar now too, very sensitive to those things.
Exactly. And I think the more pure you become, obviously, the more sensitive you are.
Yes.
So I started using it as more of a lymphatic drainage for after my surgery. And then I realized how great it works, you know, for those days that I do indulge the night before, just to sit with it the night in the morning. And there's all different, obviously, directions that you can Google to go with your lymph system. But again, I clench my jaw.
That's what I was going to ask you. Do you clench your jaw? It's such a great tool at night to release that jaw before bed, and to, you know, I think there's also, when you use a Gua Sha, sometimes you'll hear the crunching of everything kind of holding on, and I'll get into that jaw into that masseter muscle and just really get in there and release it out. I'll also pick my brow up, really get that going, because that also
Temples.
pulls up, yep, the whole kind of, your face, all your muscles are not at the edge of your face. They're really back into your hair too. So sometimes just taking it and getting in all the way beyond your hairline with the Gua Sha feels really good. And then also swiping it down the neck to release all the toxins. And actually, that's a great trick for girls and boys and anybody really that's acneic, but really teenagers. That really helps release that, right? To get all the toxins out, because that's often where it's pooling, because all the hormones are, the testosterone's usually in the forehead, and all the estrogen is around the mouth, and the ovaries are above the lips. So when we think about moving that toxin through, once we've massaged it out, we got to then get it really far out, move it through the lymph so it can then be excreted.
Exactly. And the kidneys, under the eyes. You could
Yes.
Google the chart of what part of your face represents what organ. That's why we get
Yeah.
dark circles sometimes when our kidneys are backed up, or, liver, the heart, there's all kinds. You have to look for the clues. I have acne right now because I'm on my period.
There you go.
And
See, it
it's
all
all in the
comes back to it.
hormonal area. Yes. But this is a great tool. Also, when we take it to an even deeper level, the trauma that's stored in our fascia.
Oh my goodness. I
Yeah.
had an experience yesterday. This is not what this podcast is about. So I'm not even going to go there, but I'm
Yes,
just going to tell you.
But we'll talk about it another time.
Yes, exactly. I had body work done yesterday for I turned 45 the other day, and my team got me this woman who was a body worker. And she was getting at my fascia, and I almost say it, and I think like I'm like, I'm sharing science here, and then I'm going to share this, and it sounds like I'm discrediting myself in some way or something.
It's
but
the
reality is,
remember
it's all
the
balanced
balance
and connected.
Mhm.
Exactly. And so I am having this body work, and she's deep in the fascia. And my mother died 30 years ago. It's not like it happened yesterday. You posted about your dad the other day, and my mother starts talking to me during this treatment. Now, what I have taken from now today is that often your mother's voice is your own self-talk, or your parents' voice is your self-talk. And I was literally transported as she's working through the fascia and releasing this trauma. And I am hearing a voice. First, it wasn't my mother's voice at this moment, saying, when first it told me that I was in heaven with my mother. Already, that's already a lot to take in. I was having this visual of seeing this place that I've never been to. Doesn't look like, by the way, what I thought heaven looked like. Apparently, when I released my fascia, heaven looks a little bit like Tuscany. But anyway, moving right along.
Of course.
So as an Italian, you can appreciate that. I'm not Italian. I don't have any roots there. So it was an interesting place to go. But anyway, it was quite gorgeous. And then the spirit said to me, or whatever was talking to me, said, "You were in heaven with your mother." And I thought, oh, wow, that's wild. And she's releasing my arm and releasing my arm. And then she says, then the words come out, that I died when she died, which was wild. And then I hear that my mother, that I was, and it's going on like a mantra. And then that I was reborn when my daughter was born.
Beautiful. Oh, I just got
And
chills.
this whole moment is happening. And the trauma is literally, but I'm not trying to do anything. I also wasn't prepared for what was going to happen. And that's also something in beauty that I think is important to think about. And we talked a little about this when we talked about models, and we talked about them starting to look like themselves. They don't know how they're going to transform. They're young. They don't know what's going to happen, and they don't know the possibility. The possibility then becomes open to you, and you step into that possibility. So sometimes without preparation, we don't know what's going to happen. So there I am, and I'm got my arm down, and I'm now hearing my own mother talk to me. My mother's been gone 30 years. She's never talked to me, ever. I love to tell people, people ask me, oh, well, my husband's passed, my sister's passed, are they going to visit me? And I would love to say yes, but that's not been my experience. I've got my arm down and she's working on my arm, but nowhere near my hand, nowhere near my hand. And I can feel my mother holding my hand. And she's telling me to let go and releasing the fascia and releasing the arm and releasing. I've never had anybody work on my arms like this either. And so she's saying, I love that if people can't see you right now, you're literally rocking like a mother does in comfort. It's the most lovely thing. That's what we do with our babies. We rock to comfort them. So there I am, and she's releasing my arm, and I hear my mother say, let go. And I feel ready to let go, which is the weirdest feeling too, because I wasn't even thinking about that. And she's saying, let go, it's okay. And then she says, but I won't be here. I'll be gone once you finally let go. And I'm literally actively, now the woman has, she's not saying anything, but her voice clicks. I'm back like in the room again, and it clicks in. She's telling me to breathe. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to breathe the way that I'm meant to breathe. So when we Gua Sha too, something to think about is you've got to breathe to release it. You can't just be like holding on, gritting the teeth, and you've got to exhale when we do the work. Because if we don't exhale, we're not going to release anything that's happening. So I'm really releasing. I'm really like going in, and my arm, and she was able to release the right side, left side. I'm literally in my mind holding my mother's hand, although I'm somewhere else. I'm not in the room, and I'm trying to breathe into it. And I desperately wanted to let it go. I wanted to release it. And she said to me, once I go, as I said, once I go, I'm gone. And I was in that moment really okay with that, really at peace with that. And what was amazing about that was I didn't have this recognition when it happened. I was unable to let it go, unfortunately. So it was still very tight. It's still painful. I now want to have this treatment again because I want to release it. But what I realized from that moment is the people that gifted me this treatment were the women that I work with, the women that are creating this beauty world with me, and the women that I have created community with. And it's, there's that, you'll see a meme about all over Instagram about like finding the light workers, right? And it's like these women are light workers in and of their own right, and they are comforting. And even just watching you sway, how comforting that is. This idea that mothering is not only one person too. It's a beautiful thing that it can be one human, but we can be mothered and nurtured by anybody, and we can mother and nurture each other. And this concept of kind of beauty being the vehicle for allowing us to find mother in a way, and find our own self and our own self-mothering. And so when you ask me how I started, that expression when they say, like, if you clean it, you own it. No one had taught me to be a woman. No one had taught me how to be a girl, even, really, right? My mom died when I was 13, just as I was really coming into that teenagehood. And I set out to teach myself everything I could that my mother couldn't teach me, that I know she would have wanted to. And I tried to teach myself through the lens that I think she would have wanted to teach me. And I think about beauty in this way of, I was once asked to give a talk, and a big talk actually, and I wasn't able to do it because I was reopening the store for its second season in the Hamptons. But I wrote the talk, and they said to me, so you're going to give a talk to people about beauty, except that 60% of the people in the room are actually going to be men. And probably 40% of that doesn't even wash their face, of the whole population. I said, so, okay, great. So I've got a small window of people to talk to. And I always think about, when you talk to somebody, you want to talk to the person who is the most interested in what you're saying and the least interested in what you're saying. And then within the continuum are the other people, right? So when you're talking about, even when we got onto this call or this chat, you're talking about that most of the people that are dealing with this podcast are thinking about the spirituality, and they're really diving deep into that. And then this is an access point for them, right? So it's all connected, though, as we keep saying. And so I'm talking to them, thinking about how I'm going to talk to them, and talking out into the world to prepare for my speech, and I'm looking in the mirror and I'm thinking to myself, oh gosh, like this is what they're seeing when I'm talking to them. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't know any of these people. And so what does my beauty mean to them, or what does my visual mean to them? And I realized that that's when I'm presenting to them, what if I give them the idea that it's not about my face, it's about their face or about their mother's face. So this idea that your face means something to another person. There is somebody to whom your face gives great comfort. I popped on here to see you, and immediately I saw your face and it gave me comfort to see you. I was so delighted to see you, your smile and your warmth. And I think that's one of the reasons people are so attracted to you, is that light that you have, and that, you've got those gorgeous blue eyes, and you have them always sort of delicately looking at the person, but to like almost see into their soul, just to see the person, not just what you're looking at. And when we think about tools and beauty and access, if we want to be our most beautiful, we have to release anything that doesn't serve us.
Absolutely. I mean, so many things that you're saying it's such truth. And I want to add two things to the experience with your fascia release and the community that you said. We're the ones who kind of put this out there, especially Americans, as like we have to do it ourselves, mother ourselves, sister ourselves, parent ourselves, daughter ourselves at all. But back in the day, in these tribes, it was the women in the community that all held each other and all took responsibility for one thing or another, or helped when you didn't have it in you to mother. Another woman in the community would come and help. And especially at times during your period, you had to go into the red tent, and there was this and we often feel like we can't rely on this sisterhood to help us heal in different ways. And that's what happened to you with the group that works for you, providing this, is they allowed you to just sink into your healing and took some of the responsibility, whether it was that afternoon or day or whatever, or offer you the seed of healing in that way. And I'm experiencing that a lot for the first time, is this tribe of women and men that you could really sink into healing, and you're not alone in this. We're all helping each other. And as far as the part where you felt you're going to release that, you're afraid to release, what I was hearing is, once you release it, you think your mother will be gone, but the essence of her won't be. It will be the things within you that represent those things that your mother held on to. I've been openly talking about my experiences with plant medicine lately, and I had an intention going in to understand more about my grandmother on my maternal side, and some of the women on my maternal side that have like some anger towards men, either died divorced or unhappily married or alone. And I wanted to understand that. And at the end of the journey, I realized it was all parts of me that I haven't fleshed out of myself that was represented in each one of them, from the guilt to the anger to the sorrow, all of these different parts of me that are my ancestors, that's in my daughter. And the sooner that I heal them, my daughter will be healed of those things that she kind of harbors, that she doesn't even know it's in her DNA.
Yeah, we don't even realize it, because we are, the most fascinating part about science to me is that we are in our grandmother's body as our mother's ovaries.
Absolutely. So that holds that trauma, that generational trauma. It also holds the beauty. So we have to realize that too. Our ancestors 100% just not hand us down trauma. They handed us a lot of wisdom.
No, they hand us down wisdom and beauty and excellence, and they hand us down resilience and all sorts of incredible things that are in our DNA. And one of the things that you said about this tribe and this idea of being with women together and in community, the thing about Gua Sha that's also so interesting is that it was reserved for royalty, and it was done on them, not self. So it's this also the idea of, if you can imagine when you're doing a Gua Sha on yourself, though, you can give the idea of the healing of another in that idea. Um, and you can, in your mind, ideate something that's maybe of a wisdom, right? Of the release of wisdom and and allowing that wisdom to come in, because it's another person kind of removing what's not working, what's not good,
Exactly.
and replacing it with what is good, because we're only a vessel of, interestingly enough, I think we are both the duality, right? We're both a finite vessel, and also we have no limit, right? And so we have to find that place where we're as full as we can be, and then also get to the place where we are allowing it to be receptive.
Absolutely. That's the big key that you don't understand is as you're releasing some of these things, it has to be replaced with something else. So it's your choice to what to replace it with. Don't you love how like we just talked about like the shallowness of looking better from a Gua Sha, and then we go on to this journey of healing, and that's what beauty can do for us. And this whole Kim Kardashian era that's come about in the last few years, I do believe that it doesn't have to be one extreme to the other. When I was writing my book, which I still have not finished, but I'll get there one day, it's like you don't have to be Gandhi or Kim Kardashian. There's a place in between where you can embrace the material things and the extensions and the lashes and all of that, with the authentic you. And it's okay to borrow these things and use these things just to either have fun with it or feel better, or look at yourself in the mirror and feel a little bit more confident. As long as they don't own you, you own them, and you know who you
For
are at its
sure. And if
core.
you can think about it from the vantage point of that, you're not trying to change who you are. You're trying to be your most alive, vibrant self. And so when our system, our body has the heart pumps our blood through our body, but our lymphatic system doesn't have a pump. There's nothing to move it through. So, and that's, other than our digestive, that's this other custodial system of our body is the lymphatic system, and removing the toxins. And so we actively have to get rid of it and move it throughout our system. And as we remove it, much like when we fast or when we do a cleanse, what we feed it afterward is equally as important as the removal process. And in fact, sometimes more important. So when we do Gua Sha, or we do use a beauty tool, or even if we exfoliate, right, what we do next is really important.
Exactly. And that goes with all levels of spirituality, but we're sticking to beauty on this one. I love it. It's funny, you were saying how you were comforted when you first saw my face, and a lot of people, and I felt the same way when I saw you. And I think that's I'm just going to use the word clean, like coming through us. But I have to say, there was a time, and it makes me think of, obviously my incident is public knowledge. And after that, and my divorce and everything, I couldn't even look in the mirror because all I saw was pain. I saw no beauty. Normally growing up, I'm like, oh, this looks cute. Oh yeah, my eyes look pretty with this makeup. I could not see any of that. All I saw was pain and trauma, and I couldn't even look at myself anymore. And it was shortly after that I got my surgery, and then on top of that became all the swelling, and I didn't look the same. And a lot of people were like, oh, you look so different. It wasn't just the nose, it was the clenching of my jaw that was changing the shape of my face. And that's why you won't find many pictures of me in the last 5 years, because I kind of just checked out of life. I could never mind posting a picture. I couldn't even look at myself. But it wasn't until I started healing from this trauma that I felt myself coming back and was able to take a picture and look in the mirror and accept the new version of me that will never look like the old version of me. But that version had to die for many reasons, from generational trauma or childhood, whatever it is. It's not me anymore. So it's been a process, accepting what I look like now in the mirror and loving her, and seeing the beauty. And I think that's what's starting to radiate again, because she was packed away for so long. As I heal, it's coming again. So that's when you see someone in a room and you see like that glow that we talked about, that's when they're really working on the insides and letting go of the trauma through some tools like this, or plant medicine, or other breath work and other forms that we mentioned. But that's when your real soul shines through. And we're just using these as vehicles to get to it in one way or another. And like I said, you can play with them. You can use them as days you don't feel so great, where you just need a boost, with extensions and such.
And one
And
of
it's
the
all
tools that you
okay.
just picked up is actually for penetration. Yeah, the roller. So why I love a roller is because one of the things that is so important is to go to the source, go to where things are happening. Collagen isn't made on the surface of your skin. It's made actually in the dermis. So you have your epidermis and you have your dermis, and in the dermis is where the collagen is made. So if we are trying to incorporate some sort of future proofing to the skin, or because I don't like to say anti-aging, because that seems like a real misstep, because aging is such a privilege. So this idea of, longevity and health span and giving ourselves the best opportunity, part of that is also to help promote what's good, and helping promote the production of collagen happens in the dermis. And in order for that to happen, we need to actually put a product on topically that can penetrate deeply. So that molecule needs to be small, but also we need to have an access for it to happen. And so that roller allows, the Derma Roller with the fine needles, allows micro punctures to the skin to allow the serum to penetrate deeper, to be at the level where the action is happening. Amazing.
We have to take all of these things into account when we're talking about beauty. It's like what you're putting in your body, what you're putting on your skin, your surroundings, your stress level. Inflammation is caused from many things, including stress and all of that. So I love that you're encompassing it all in Knockout Beauty, and you're not leaving any of it behind, because beauty is not just skin deep. It is it's soul deep, and needs to be addressed that way. So obviously there's so much to talk about. Give me your top 3 products that, if you really want to start down this path of natural beauty, give me your top 3 that they can get through Knockout Beauty.
So I think number 1, the thing that I would start with is making sure you have the right vitamins. So your body wants vitamins A, C, and E, topically speaking. So a vitamin A, something like, could be in the form of AVST gel, which is from Environ, which I love. There's also Vintner's Daughter, which people love, has a very high form of vitamin A in it. So that's great. Vitamin B, which is also known as niacinamide. I just love a straight up vitamin B3 toner. It gives you exactly what you need for that cell turnover that we talked about. It helps with cellular metabolism. And vitamin C is really the great defender of the skin. It's also helping with cell turnover and also collagen production. So I think finding a product, a C that's wonderful for you, could be a Beauty Stat, which I love, which has a great high percentage of vitamin C in it. I love the Agent Nature powder because it's powder and it's stabilized, and you just have to activate it with water or toner or whatever you choose. I love for me, when it comes to vitamin C, I think, I like to go to the top drawer sometimes, and there's actually a Power C Cure from MBR, which is similar to this idea of the Agent Nature, where it's actually a powder that, or it's actually in like a little nugget that you activate, because vitamin C is affected by the oxidation. So it oxidizes quickly and easily, and it's also photosensitive. So those 2 things, really you want to activate your vitamin C and use it quickly. So
yeah, I learned that with my
like,
serum with Glow by Dina, where it was in these little capsules that burst as you put them on, because if it's oxidized in the bottle, it's useless.
Exactly. So I think using a vitamin, so finding products vitamin A rich, vitamin B rich, and vitamin C rich, I think is a great place to start. We love our tools. So we have our Gua Shas, and we have our dry brushes, and our mitt, like the one you talked about for exfoliation and also just moving the lymph. But the top three for me, from my own personal skincare, will always be you need to cleanse your skin. You must cleanse your skin because the pollution just sits on your skin. And so I love a cleanser that is going to give you the highest payoff and leave the least amount of residue. And there's a new product that I'm obsessed with that you would love, actually. It's a gel cleanser by a doctor. Her name is Dr. Rose MD, Rosemary. And she is wonderful. She has created a cleanser that is powered by Jamaican superfruits. And so it's got a little bit of exfoliation, a brightening quality to it, but it's great for gentle skin and baby skin as it is for, women our age, which I think is so nice too.
I love it. I need to try that. I mean,
I feel like you need a whole gift bag of things.
Yeah, absolutely. But that paired with hydration,
Good
lots
toner.
of water. These are the topicals. I'm just going to go through to wrap this up. Hydration, stress relief, breath work, controlling your environment as much as you can. How do you feel about sunblock? Because I'm on the fence about sunblock because I am very much for getting vitamin D through the sun.
Yes, well, and you should be. That is the correct thing. So something interesting is a quick science lesson. UV rays create UV radiation. UV radiation creates free radicals, but so does stress, by the way. And what the free radical is a molecule that's missing an electron. So when the rays come in contact with our skin, yes, we need sunblock, but we also need an antioxidant. And so I think that if you're not topically using a vitamin A or a C that neutralizes that free radical, then it doesn't really matter if you're using sunblock, to be quite honest. It's only going to last you for the 90 minutes that you have the sunblock on or the sun protection on, whereas the antioxidant is going to take you throughout the day. So I think it's about understanding the science of the sun. It is incredibly powerful for our health. Vitamin D and solar vitamin D is the most important for our immune system. So I'm with you. I think it's important to think about how sunscreen has been marketed to us, what sunscreen is really doing. Are you using a physical block or a chemical block? So is it repelling the rays or is it absorbing the rays? And then also recognizing that, are you using sunblock because of the photo damage to your skin? Are you concerned about it altering your DNA, which is what creates skin cancer? Because if it's about that, that's coming from needing an antioxidant.
Got it.
Topically.
Oh my gosh, so many layers. I mean, my thing, I take 15 minutes of sun when I wake up in the morning. Just
perfect.
No sunblock. If I'm going to be in the sun extended amount of times on the beach, obviously that's when I use sunblock.
Of course, that's a different story though, because that's protecting also just the overall skin too.
Yeah. But I just think real sunlight to your face, to your retina, to your eyes is needed as to build up your immune system. And don't we need that all?
Great that you said actually about the eyes. It's important that people understand it's not with contacts or glasses. It's your real eye taking it in.
Yes, for sure. But obviously it's got to be the right time of day because we don't want to do it peak summer.
Usually it's sunrise is actually the best time.
Sunrise and sunset.
And sunset, exactly. But for the gazing of the eyes. But it's, and it's also setting our circadian rhythm, which is so important for our hormones.
Oh my gosh. I have to this conversation just is we just kind of scratched the surface of what we can go into. I love you. Thank you for being on. I hope to have you on often. You're so knowledgeable. You've got so much experience. And like I said, if it's sold at Knockout Beauty, you can trust it. Visit, we'll put everything in the show notes. And thank you so much. I can't wait to have you on again.
Thank you for having me. It was so nice to see you and to share with you. And I love that you are such a divine kind of being of light that you're actually, I wish everyone could see you. They could, I guess, watch the video, but you're not actually doing anything, and yet you're doing everything. You are controlling the conversation, or guiding the conversation, I should say. You're not even controlling it, by just being a light bearer and being this sort of connected to yourself and the source and everything. And so even though this maybe wasn't the way we thought our conversation was going to go, it goes that way because that's who you are, and you're so light and so available to everybody and so giving and warm and comforting. So thank you for having me on.
Oh, thank you.
Such a
You
treat.
just see it because it's within you too. So we're the mirror for each other. And I can't wait to have you on again. Thank you so much. I love you.
Thank you.
And we'll
Love
see you
you.
next
Nice to
time.
see you. Bye.
Bye.